All right, let's talk about technique development and developing or solving technique problems. This is a video that's coordinated to a chapter in my saxophone pedagogy book that is that does deal with this issue. Not everything that's in the book will be on the video, just some of the things that need demonstration, I think. But I think that we have to say right away that technique is a psychomotor skill, and psychomotor skills are based on conditioning, classical conditioning. Sometimes in music we call it getting it in your fingers or muscle memory. Pavlov, noted psychologist, in fact known as the father of modern psychology, Pavlov called it conditioning or classical conditioning. You might remember he did the experiment with the big dogs where he fed them meat, rang a bell, fed them meat, rang a bell, fed them meat, rang a bell, fed them meat, rang a bell. After a little while, this association has been built up between the bell and the meat, and the dogs, when they hear the bell, start to salivate as if the meat was there, even though it's not. And they have been conditioned now to respond to a bell in a way that never would have been normal or natural. So I think this really sets the stage for how we get something conditioned in our fingers, which is that we have to repeat it the same way correctly a number of times until it starts to condition. I've often thought that if Pavlov had rung a bell the first time, second time slams a door, third time shatters a pane of glass, fourth time pounds a nail into a board, fifth time goes on the trombone, sixth time, well, you get the idea. What are the dogs learning? There's no specific stimulus response pattern that's going to be built up here. This is all, I mean, at the most, the dogs can generalize that it's supposed to be noisy when you eat, but they're not going to build up any particular pattern. So I think that it's critical right from the beginning that we're teaching these things. I've got a student right now that's in the 6th grade, and she's learning her major scales. And so at first she sounded like this. I said, okay, let's play a G major scale. Yeah. No. Oh, shoot. Well, what am I getting done right now? I'm just learning mistakes. I'm not learning any patterns that are going to be helpful to my technical development. So I've had to start and say, okay, let's wait a minute. Take it out of your mouth. Let's think it through. Let's name the notes. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp. So G has 1 sharp. That's what you got to lock in your head. 1 sharp. So you won't play any F naturals. You won't play any B flats. You play everything normal except for that F sharp. So G, A, B, and let's name it together. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. All right, get that in your head. Okay, now let's see if we can do it. Don't go fast. If I could get her to do that 10 times in a row, we would be a long ways in the into the conditioning route that will get that G scale where she can rip it. When I get to that point, I can't think those notes. My fingers just do it because there's something that's been conditioned. When it becomes conditioned, it becomes automatic. When it becomes automatic, it gets faster. And this is a story actually that I tell in the book. But when I was in the 9th grade, I got to take type class. And my mother was a professional typist, so even when I was a little kid playing on the floor with my toys, she'd be over in the corner at the typewriter. Great. So when I got to 9th grade, it's like, yeah, man, I'm going to be like my mom. I'm going to be really fast. So from day one, I'm pushing the envelope. But remember, this is on a typewriter. Now today you'd call this a keyboarding class. But back at that time we were on typewriters. And so if you made a mistake, you had to physically erase it with an eraser. So here's me. Oh, oh no. Are you kidding? Oh my gosh. Very frustrating, because I was always pushing the envelope. I always wanted to be fast. So my friend in the front of me, the girl that was sitting right in front of me, this is how she was typing. I mean, you might as well have put a metronome with it. It was very steady and very slow. Of course, what am I doing? She's so slow, man. I'm fast. I'm really fast. I'm like my mom. Well, you know what's happening by the end of the year, right? My friend is typing 80 words a minute, no mistakes. What am I doing at the end of the year? Shoot. No. Same darn thing I was doing at the front of the year. Because I never did pay the price to condition what I wanted to condition without mistakes. And consequently, I never learned how to type without mistakes. And what's happening to me all these years later? Just the same thing. Except now, I don't have to erase. I'm very fast at the delete key. And I can just grab that. I think the delete key was made for me, actually. But I can use the delete key and type very fast now. If I didn't make more mistakes per minute than I do words, I'd be really dangerously fast. But I never did develop speed because I was always wanting speed too much. And so I would push speed and therefore negate conditioning, and therefore nothing ever became automatic, and therefore nothing ever got fast. So I think our students all want to play fast, but the worst enemy is to play fast. What we're really about is conditioning. So we're trying to condition the right things. If we can stay slow long enough, we will condition those things until they're automatic. And with my students, I compare this to a lot of things that are automatic in their life. I say, did you tie your shoes this morning? Yeah. Do you remember doing it? No, not really. Did you have to think then about how you did it? No. Done. Automatic. But you remember, it wasn't always that way. Back in first grade, you got a star on your chart for when you got your shoes. When you could tie your shoes, you got that star on your chart. Yeah. I said, there's other things like that. You took it for granted that you walked in here today, and you didn't have to think about it. You just happened automatically. You didn't have to say, okay, right foot. Okay, now left foot. Now right. Balance. Got to balance. Right foot, right. Balance. Right foot, left, left. You didn't have to go through all this. So, why not? Your mother can tell you it wasn't always that way. I remember when I came home years ago, I was working on my doctoral studies, came home from school one night. Our son was 8 months old. And my wife said, you wouldn't believe this kid today. Stood up, fell down. Stood up, fell down. Stood up, fell down. Stood up, fell down. Stood up, must have been 100 times. But by that night, he could stand up and not fall down. He had figured out balance. Then he would pull himself up and he would start to hang onto a table, and he'd take some steps. And he started working out the feet. How do we get the left and the right to coordinate here? Hasn't quite got that with balance yet. He's still hanging on to stuff. But you know, pretty soon, he's able to let go, and he's able to balance and get his right and left feet working properly together. And before you know it, he's running around so fast we can't keep up with him. But it's a growth process, and it comes from conditioning and developing, and now that's a conditioned process. Spoon into the mouth. Again, wasn't always that way. But we condition it. But a lot of mistakes at first. But we gradually get it conditioned to where we don't have too many accidents or mistakes anymore. We tend to get into the mouth pretty well. These are all examples. Shooting baskets, golfing, baseball, it doesn't matter. Piano, saxophone. It's all motor skills. It's all based on conditioning. And I think we have to be careful about letting our students play things too fast without thinking. When a student comes in and plays a scale, especially after they're a little more feet on the ground than my little sixth grade student, but if they're doing that, I can tell that they're playing it by ear. Say, no. Yes, we want our ears involved, but you are not going to play this by ear. You're going to use your mind. Your mind has to control this because your mind tells your fingers what to do. So we think it through, and then we get it going. I think this is really the big key. So when we say, well, how do you practice? We practice slow. Well, okay, but this is what slow practice was for me for many years. If I played a passage that I couldn't play, I don't know. Let's see, let me find my example that I have here. Let's say that it's this. Oh shoot, I've got it all messed up. Let me play that slow. Okay, I got it, I think. Yeah, I'm good. Oh. And that's what slow practice meant to me. It didn't take 30 seconds to get from slow back to fast. No, that is not what slow practice means. Slow practice means it's slow for even weeks. When I was preparing to audition for my master's degree, I had a whole recital's worth of material that I was preparing. About 6, 7 weeks, something like that, before I was to go to the audition. This was on clarinet, by the way. My teacher gave me a chance to play in the clarinet masterclass, and I played most of my repertory. I recorded it. I missed things that I knew I could play. And so he was going to give me another chance to play 2 weeks later, so I really worked on those things. Turns out that I got most of those things the second time around, but I missed things that I hadn't missed the first time. And it's like, what? I know I can play everything in here, but how do I know if I'm going to play it that time when I'm at the audition? And it really became a huge issue to me, and I started talking to everybody about it and came to the conclusion that the real answer to that was that I needed to condition the stuff better, so that even if my mind wandered, even if I had something that distracted me, my fingers would still do it. And so this is what I embarked on. I had about a month left at this point. I set my metronome at 60, and I put all the 16th, well, first of all, I should tell you that I circled all the passages that were mostly 16th note passages that had gone wrong or I thought could go wrong. And so I circled those, and then my goal was to play every one of those passages 10 times in a row correctly every day. And so the way I did that is I put all the things that were in 16th notes into 8th notes. And then I put the metronome at 60, great discipliner. And I had to play 10 times in a row at 60 each circled passage in 8th notes every day. If I got to 6 or 7 and I made a mistake, I had to start over. It had to be 10 times in a row correctly. Well, I did that for a week. The second week, I moved the metronome up to 80, but I kept all the notes in 8th notes. So it's just a little quicker. Again, 10 times in a row correctly on all circled passages every day. My third week, I put it back to 60 and put it in 16th notes. And I played all the passages 10 times in a row correctly at 16th notes at 60. Then and about halfway through that week, actually, I moved it up to 80. And then at the beginning of the fourth week, I started moving it up a few notches in the repetitions, and I started pushing myself just a little bit. By this time, I'd had 3 weeks of laying a foundation and paying dues, so that when it came time to push, I had quite a bit of conditioning done that would allow me to be able to push a little bit without mistakes. And I started pushing every day a little bit more until I had most of the things faster than I needed to play them in my pieces. And you know, when I went to the audition, it went really well. I nailed it. And I knew that it came from a lot of preparation. I do have to say that there was some fasting and prayer that went into that too. But I know I was helped and blessed. But the point is that if we can practice correctly, we can condition. The conditioning will bring about automation, and automation will bring about the speed that we need where we can play accurately many times in a row. So there's just a few stories to kind of pave the way for some a foundation for technical development. Now, I don't let the students play fast very soon. Once it comes time where we can work on speed, I usually have them work on 5-note scales. A 5-note scale just sounds like this. First 5 notes of a major scale. The beauty of this is it's easier to work on speed in 5 notes than it is with a lot more notes. And if I play the bottoms of all the scales, I also play the tops of all the scales, because the bottom of one scale is the top of the adjacent scale on the key circle. So I'll have them practice this way. etc. While we're doing this, we can work on keeping our hands close, fingers relaxed, close to the keys, and not flying around wild. It's a great exercise. And I think that that helps to pave the way for getting the fingers moving. Once I get that done for a while, then I can start going. Now the bottom part of this is the bottom part of G. And the upper part of this is the upper part of D. I start to do things like that, keeping the fingers close. Well, after a while I'm doing 2 octaves. Maybe not on that one. Just do it on D. There's no way to think that. That has to be conditioned. At this point, then I can start to push a little bit. All right, let's move on to some problem solving. How do I help students do problem solving on difficult technical passages? I'm going to take this little passage from the Iber. It's a difficult place, maybe one of the most difficult places. A lot of you will recognize this. Difficult. Well, what do I do to have a student learn this kind of a thing? I first have them do the uneven exercise. I'm just taking a little bit so it doesn't take too much time to do this. I'm double dotting the downbeat and I'm moving really quickly on the little note. I could hold the long notes as long as I want to. I can go. Sometimes I tell the students, don't move till you know what you're going to really do and then do it right. You can hold it as long as you want. It really doesn't matter how long you hold it. As long as you move quickly when you move. And then we're going to turn it around. These should be done at least half a dozen times each. Again, I could hold it as long as I want. It's just that I move when I move. So by the time I've done it both ways, I've played every finger combination very rapidly. This works great then for, by the time I play, none of my fingers are moving as fast as they did when I did that exercise. But when I did the exercise, I only did every other combination quickly. So in the first exercise, I went really fast from notes 2 to 3, and then from, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But when I turn it around, then it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm doing the opposite ones. And by the time I've done it both ways, I've really got it cleaned up. In fact, one way or the other will show you where your finger problems are typically. Now, a lot of things I can learn with just that. But sometimes I would like to take it further, and I'll have the students regroup. So let's say this is in 4s as it is, then let's do it in 3s. Practice it in triplets. And I have them accent it so that we can really hear triplets. Do this several times, of course. All these things should be done at least a half a dozen times. Tough screw down there. Okay, then I'll have them do it in 5. So 2 plus 3, 2 plus 3. Two plus 3, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Do it in 5. If it's in 3s, written in 3s, then do it in 4s and 5s. But regrouping can be very helpful to strengthen the technique for that. Another thing that I like to do, you know, as long as we're playing with the same rhythm all the time, then we have the same accenting pattern. We have certain notes that are always in strong positions and certain notes that are always in weak positions. I think if we can do things that put every note in a strong position, then after a while we've strengthened our whole cause. And so I do another exercise that I call shifting accents. I'm going to accent all the 4s. We'll do that a number of times. Then I'll have it, okay, let's now do everything accent in the threes. We get that octave key after quick for that, like flicking on the bassoon. Then I'll do twos. Of course, this is setting me up for the phrase drive that we've talked about in another chapter, where I'm thinking 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So now we've done the two accent in the twos last year. Now I've got the twos in my mind accented, but I'm not going to physically do it. And that brings me to my finished product, so that I've got the grouping working when I get to the finished product. That's just a thing that I like to do to practice hard passages, and we can solve a lot of problems that way. I think that I've listed some other ways in the book that maybe don't need demonstration. I'll let you read those. I think we've mentioned pretty much everything else in this chapter. Hammering, I haven't mentioned that. I should mention this. Hammering is when the fingers are... I'm pounding with the fingers. You hear the fingers pop down. I want the fingers to go down decisively, but not hammering. So I call it positive action. It's like a finger continuum, and on this end is hammering, and on this other end is oozing. We don't want the fingers to ooze. We also don't want to hammer. Somewhere in the middle of the continuum, kind of on the hammering side, is what I call positive action. And the positive action needs to be a very decisive finger action so that it's clean, it doesn't ooze, but it happens from very close to the body of the instrument when it snaps, not from very high. If you snap from high, you're going to hammer. So we have to snap from close, then it won't hammer. I think that this is an exercise that I probably should illustrate. This is a weird exercise, and I'm going to move the camera down so you can see my fingers better as I do this. This is going to look weird at first. Down on the lower hand too. You can't see my lower hand very well, so I'll just keep it on the upper hand for now for the demonstration. Now, what am I doing? I'm working on finger closeness and relaxation. You're saying, what? Are you kidding? Yeah, well, my fingers are pulling way back, but I'm actually stretching this tenon, is what I'm doing. I'm stretching the tenon significantly right here. Now, when I relax it and I let it down, it relaxes more. And this actually helps to develop relaxation. It's like if I said, tense up your arm. Let me see if I can get where you can see it. Tense up your arm. Hold it tense. Keep it tight. The muscles are working. Okay. Your arm can relax more than if I just said, hey, relax your arm. Once you've tensed it up, it gets more relaxed. I'm working on that principle with these fingers. I'm holding the finger very high, comes down slowly, and then snaps into place. So I'm working on that decisive action, hitting the key in a snappy way, but not from high. From high, it stretches the tenon. As it comes down, then the tenon releases and it relaxes, and then I snap at the last second right at the bottom. That's what I'm practicing. Let's just see that again. Stretching this tenon. really get your fingers relaxing and being able to play decisively from a close position. You can do work each finger like that. Then you can come back and work 2 fingers at a time. When I do that, it brings up another point that I haven't made, that there's also a way that you take your finger off. Instead of going, if you rip your finger off a certain way, it'll kind of pop, kind of hammer off. Instead, I'm going to bring my finger off this way. So I'm working on how it goes on and how it comes off. Really excellent for finger action. So I'm not going. Would be hammering. And I take them off lightly as well. I don't want to have that sound. I can work on down all my fingers that way. It's just excellent for finger action. I think that that's an excellent exercise. Now I might also mention an exercise that I call the D exercise that I do for octave key timing. You know that most smoothness issues in our technique have to do with octave key timing. And we have 2 different octave keys. Fingers, we've got the thumb. We also have the 3rd finger on our top hand. This 3rd finger determines which octave key opens, since we have 2 octave keys. And so I've got to get them both to cooperate. Now if I go, here's the D exercise, and these things are written out, of course, in the book. And it's even on the warm-up page. I'm going to go up a half step, back, down a half step, back, up a whole step, back, down a whole step, back, up a minor 3rd, back, down a minor 3rd, back. When I say come back, and back to D every time. D's right in the middle of the horn. If we keep working this out, the D will hit high F sharp and low B flat at the same time. I don't want any oozing. That's oozing. I don't want any hammering. I've got to work on this for so that the finger action is really smooth. This is tricky because when I go back to D, if my thumb's light, I get that low sound. If my thumb's on time, but my 3rd finger's late, I'll get a high sound. So it's the thumb and the 3rd finger that have to move ahead. I'll keep working out. Trying to get really smooth action and good octave key timing. After a while, I'm working on a different set of problems. If the 3rd finger comes off late, or worse, if it goes down late. That's the 3rd finger coming off late when I go to C. I'm going from G to C. 3rd finger comes off slightly late. There's a piece of garbage in there. And so by the time I've done the D exercise, I've actually done every octave key timing problem that I'm going to have. Is it getting on quick enough? Is it getting off quick enough? For example, I didn't demonstrate that. When I go down, I'm not getting off quick enough. Thumb out of the way quicker. And so I have to practice, is the thumb on quick enough? Is the thumb off quick enough? Is the 3rd finger on quick enough? Is the 3rd finger off quick enough? Are they working together the way they need to be? That's really a lot of smoothness issues that we solve in our technique if we work on the D exercise and get the octave key timing shored up. Let's see, those are some good things. Let's see if there's anything else we ought to do. The Altissimo Technique I deal with in a different chapter on teaching Altissimo. There is one thing in Altissimo, though, we may not get to there, that I do have to use. Let me bring this down again. I do have to use a rolling technique. It's like going to the A key in the clarinet. I don't want to hop. I don't want to slide. Not accurate. I want to roll back. And the rolling's happening from this first knuckle, the knuckle on the first joint. It rolls from there. So let's say I'm going. I've got to roll under those kind of circumstances. That's a technique that needs to be seen. Here's another one that's valuable. If I can get where you can see this. And this angle is going to be hard. But when I'm playing low B flat to B natural to B flat and back to B, if I slide all the way down, then it's a long ways back. What I would do is I finger the B key toward the bottom, then pivot down for the B flat and pivot back. I don't actually slide down to the B flat key. I just go toward the bottom of the B key and then pivot down. And I can do that with a rolling action as well. Maybe that's enough for this chapter. It's a lot of stuff. Teaching technical development. That's what we're trying to deal with here. So anyway, sorry this is so raw, but you're just getting me. This is just raw me. I haven't practiced these things or tried to prepare these things. It's just what's happening right now, and just illustrating. Hopefully you look past my the things I missed and just learn from the ideas. So anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Thank you.